Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to take a look at this GPS drone that's just received in the mail a few days ago from EXO Drone. This is a brand that I've never worked with before, but I've heard a lot of good things about, and this is the Cinemaster 2. This is a 4K capable, 4K at 30 frames per second, GPS drone that features a 3-axis gimbal, and also has EIS, which is electronic image stabilization. It's foldable, brushless motors, all the things that you would come to expect on a mid-level drone that this is. We'll take a look at the box real quick here. If I can get it into the field of view, you can see this is a 3-axis gimbal, as I just mentioned. And on this side, they have some of the other stuff, which is going to be hard. This box and the size of this, where my camera is mounted, I can't really get it up there too well. But hopefully you can make it out. The 4K at 30 that I mentioned, the EIS as well. So the EIS will work to remove any imperfections that you may get in the gimbal itself. So if the gimbal works really well, then EIS shouldn't have to do much. Vision sensor, that means optical flow. So if you were to fly this drone indoors, like in a gymnasium or something, where you didn't get a GPS lock, it would work. Or if you're outdoors and you would lose your GPS signal momentarily, it will look down at the ground to hold position until it reestablishes the GPS lock. It mentions it as GPS and map, of course, and it uses your 5G Wi-Fi, so 802.11ac Wi-Fi, which any phone you have nowadays has that. But the good thing about 802.11 or 5G is it has a higher throughput rate, so it allows for a better transmission quality of the image coming into your phone. A higher like 1080p, 720p preview. But it doesn't have quite as good of range, though, as your traditional 2.4 gigahertz. So let's take a look at the drone itself. Now, as you can see, it comes packaged in a really nice soft case with EXO's branding on top of it. And, of course, you have a handle to carry it around. Let's take a look at the drone. So here's the drone. A spare battery, your controller, and some of the instructions, spare parts are back inside of this netting pocket in the back. So you can see the drone is rather long and thin, or skinny looking when it's folded, into its storage mode. You can see we have a USB-C that's going to be on the side of the battery here for charging, I believe. But what you do is you snap it into place, and then it sort of looks almost like, reminds me a bit of a Paranafi, has a bit of that look, I believe. You get them popped into place, and there you have your X pattern of your drone, and it's all folded out and ready to go. Now, as I mentioned, the battery here is on the top, and here's your lights and the power button. So the battery would pop off this guy. I have to see, press it on this button, I believe, and then it will pop out and come out. Now this is a 3S 11.4 volt 3200 milliamps. 11.4 volt tells me that this is a high voltage lithium or LiPo battery. So a little bit more power on these, and it will use that USB-C, it appears, to charge. So that's a little bit slow if using that method, which it appears to be. I'll have to double check when we get into the cables to make sure that is actually how it charges itself. Now on the over here underneath this front arm, you have a micro SD. I always want to say micro USB, micro SD card slot, and that is obviously going to let you save at 4K at 30 footage or any photos you would take. Now you've got a looks like an LED sort of light in here, and then you've got some optical flow camera, and maybe it might be some infrared or something, that the different sensors that it uses for facing down at the ground. And then you've got your gimbal guard here, which you would take off. We need to remove this sticker here, and then this should come off here, and then you can get access to the actual camera and the gimbal. Now it's got this little tag on here. It's telling you just some information, so we just throw that out to the side. Now we need to make sure we take this little sticker off the front of the camera. I also want to probably take it off on this one as well. But there you go. This is your 3-axis gimbal with your 4K at 30 frames per second camera, which 30 frames per second is totally fine. The higher the frame rate, the the smoother the video playback will be. But it also requires a much higher data rate whenever you're going to get 60 frames per second, and you'll get a lot larger files when you're saving to an SD card. So 4K at 30, you typically get a little bit smaller file size, and that is, it's okay. It just depends on how fast you're filming or how fast you're yawing and stuff. If you a lot of fast movements, 60 frames per second is going to be better. So you've got your pitch, and you got your roll, and your yaw stabilization as well, which a lot of times you don't see the yaw stabilization on these more mid-tier drones like this. Now, I think let's take a look at the brushless motors here. We got the brushless motors, and you got the swing out props on this guy as well. So what I was thinking of is I want to show you guys the controller as well. That's what got me a little bit tied up there for a moment. Here's that spare battery, of course. But what I was thinking on this is, whenever I pulled this out a while ago, before I started filming here, that's whenever I was able to recognize this controller immediately. And this looks very familiar. If you are in the drone world like myself, or flown a lot of them, this is an MJX controller. So I realized, of course, this is also an MJX drone that has just been repackaged and rebranded by EXO. And I've been really impressed with EXO so far. So even though this is an MJX, and this is actually an MJX Bugs 16 Pro drone, you're not going to get the level of customer service from MJX as you are from EXO. They are just, I had heard some things about them being really good, and whenever the whole process, even though this was sent to me for review as a complimentary, I get all the same emails as if one of you guys were buying it. So you get emails as soon as you order, and you get emails giving you different software. They give you emails on when it's shipped, emails whenever it's gotten to your local post office, it's out for delivery. The whole process, they're right there for you all along. So if you have a problem with this drone, there's going to be no problems getting a replacement. They sell it both on the EXO website, and they also sell it on Amazon as well, from my understanding. So if you're interested in this drone, you can check the video description. I'll include a link at least to Amazon where this will be sold. And Amazon's got great customer service. So the combination of the two, there's no worries on this drone whatsoever on this. Now this is just, and I should have said this earlier, this is going to just be the table review. So we're looking this over right now, and overview unboxing. The flight review will be coming up very soon, but it's just very windy outside. Just almost like hurricane. It wasn't hurricane force. It was just, the wind was just so crazy I could feel it pushing my van today, and I couldn't fly this. And then it's been raining a bunch and storming, so I couldn't get it up to fly it. But I'm going to definitely do that as soon as I can, so we can see how well this drone performs, because I expect it's going to film very good, and pretty good, I should say. It should be pretty good video. And the gimbal, I think all that's going to work really well. I would think just because of this type of 5G, the Wi-Fi stuff, I just think it's probably going to be a bit limited on range is what I expect. But I expect that the drone itself will probably perform pretty good, and the video ought to look really good as well. So back to this controller, you can see you've got some of the buttons here for takeoff and landing. You've got your rates, and I think this is like an LED button. You got your on and off here, the motor unlock, your GPS button here to return home and land, and your photo video button, short press photo, long press video. Standard MJX controller on those. And then on the top here you have this working dial on the right. This one here is locked in place and does not operate. This dial will let you, of course, tilt the gimbal when you're flying around so you can look down. Takes probably 3 AAA batteries. It takes 2. So 2 AA batteries. That's what they usually use. And then on these antennas here, we'll take a closer look to these and see. I think lots of times you'll get one real antenna, and that's what this left one does. So that wire runs up in here, and that allows you to get a little bit better range, as it's going to be able to send the signal out and receive the signal back on this controller here from the drone. And then you pull this out, and this is where you actually put your phone in there to use with that app. That is probably, we'll have to look at the instructions here to see if EXO actually has you know, their own app, or is it probably just like a re-skinned version of the MJX? I doubt they're using the MJX app. And here is an on and off switch for the GPS. You could put this into just like altitude hold mode, and I expect it probably would also use the vision sensor at that point, but don't hold me to that. I don't always test that because most people are just buying these drones for the GPS. And let's get this instruction manual out here. And I did get a few of the spare parts out here. You get some full set of extra props here. And there is that charging cable and a screwdriver. So that is actually to charge the battery, like I mentioned a while ago. So you don't have to worry about any weird... Sometimes MJX has been known to use these slide-on chargers that go into the actual prongs on the actual battery, and it's so proprietary. At least with this, you're using something as common as a USB-C cable to actually charge the battery. Just keep in mind it's going to charge slow. You want to use your highest amp USB, so something on a wall outlet, something you might use to charge an iPad, like a charging brick that comes off your wall. That's 2 or 3 amps. If you use your computer, you may end up, taking a lot longer to charge that battery. So here's the instruction manual. You have a quick start and a full user manual. We'll take a look here. I just want to find it, see what that app is called. Here's some QR codes for getting off the ground and in-flight features. So see, this is things that they add that you would not get if you bought this just somewhere else from MJX directly or MJX's branding. And here is where they show those controls and some of the telemetry information that you'll get on that screen on the controller here. Standard height, distance, which will be in meters, unfortunately, if you're not used to that. Most people are, but if you're in the US, you might want the Imperial system on the controller. The app may very well have a way to change that. What mode you're in, high, low rate, if GPS is on or off. Your return to home icon will flash if you're doing the return to home, have it come back and land. And then you got your transmitter and your drone battery meters. And then it shows the signal strength to the from the transmitter and the drone. And if you're in a headless mode over here, which is something that you probably would not need to fly in since it's a GPS drone. And your number of satellites here in the middle, which 18 would be a good lock as it shows there. And the app you're going to use is the Cinemaster 2 app. So we'll scan this QR code. I'll put a screenshot of the app here in this video so you guys can see what it looks like on in my case, the Google Play Store, since I use Android. But I don't know yet until we get into it if it'll look like the MJX ones or if this is an app that EXO made themselves just for this drone, which would be nice because the MJX apps can be a little hit and miss, so they're usually pretty good. It just shows you how to connect it. And if you're someone who's not going to get too in depth, just wants to get up in the air and fly it, hit the record button and that's the end of the day, then this is probably going to be enough using the quick start. The full manual is going to go into probably some more of the flight features and a little more in depth on preparing it and getting it up in the air and all that you can do. And of course that's all here in the index or table of contents for the drone. So as you can see, a really nice instruction manual for this drone. So yeah, I think that covers pretty much all the basics. Obviously we'll get this in the air and we can actually get it up and see how it works. And we'll get a look at inside the actual app itself so you guys can see what the app all looks like when we actually get it going, and I'll probably do a screen recording of the app while it's in the air, and of course include just some footage right off the SD card into the flight review so you guys can get a good look at this drone and see how well does that 3-axis gimbal perform along with the EAS. Is the video really stable and smooth? We have no hiccups or glitches, and how does the video quality look? And then we'll kind of get an idea, if we get out a little ways, are we going to get breakup in the range? That's where lots of times you run into problems on these drones. They don't have a really advanced proprietary type of connection like DJI or Autel or even FIMI uses, and it's relying solely on the Wi-Fi. Then I a lot of times don't see these drones have the greatest range. So that's going to probably be my biggest concern. All right, guys, that wraps up the table review and overview unboxing for the EXO Cinemaster 2. Be sure to stay tuned to the channel. We'll get that flight review up as soon as the weather cooperates. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And while you're at it, click that bell. That way you're notified every time I do upload a new video. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark side.